Welcome back to Statistics with Dr. Platt. And today in this session, we're going to be looking at levels of measurement and something else, which we will get to in a moment. When you're collecting data, there is a lot of different depths of measurement or ways that the data can be organized. We've already looked in our last session at qualitative or categorical data and qualitative or numerical data. Today we're going to be expanding them a little bit further and looking at data at the nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio levels. As you go up the complexity of each level, you are being able to do more and more mathematically with the data. The nominal level of data is found only with qualitative or categorical data, and it cannot be manipulated mathematically in any way, since it deals with things such as broader categories, colors, names, labels, types of food, and yes or no responses to questions. It cannot be ordered, since there is no viable way to establish a ranking among different colors. For example, on a medical entry form, nominal level of data would include things such as your name, race, sex, potential for pregnancy, or names of pre-existing conditions or medications you're taking. The ordinal level of measurement would include data on a hotel entry form such as what are your levels of pain, how does your pain tolerance compare with those of those you know. It is information that can be ranked, and there is a usefulness to the ranking, such as the TV ratings or movie ratings, where PG contains less violence and vocabulary than PG-13 or R, and a general rating would be permissible to everybody. So that is data that can be ordered or ranked in some meaningful way. However, the difference between data entries are not meaningful. So if you list the finishers in a race, you have first place, second place, third place. Those are an ordinal system of places. However, the difference between first and third place is not really any different than or may be very different from the difference between second and fourth. Or one's person level 2 pain to level 5 pain can be very different from somebody else's level 2 to level 5 pain. If we want to have meaningful differences consistently throughout the scale, then we'd be working at the interval level of measurement, where this is positions on the scale. Your intake temperature would be a medical thing that would be at the interval level. And the 0 on the scale, which hopefully you're not showing up with a temperature of 0 degrees at the hospital, does not have any special position, because temperatures can drop from 10 degrees to negative 10 degrees passing through 0 and not have an anomaly. because 0 is simply a point on the scale. How fresh water behaves at 0 depends on what temperature scale you're using. But in any case, a 20-degree temperature difference represents the same difference wherever you are on the scale. But 0 is not meaningful. It doesn't mean none of anything. At the ratio level, 0 does mean none. So your blood pressure, it hopefully will not be 0, but it could be. A person's weight could be 0, or height could be 0. More likely, the weight growth or increase in weight for a seed beyond the basic weight of the seed, or the height of a sapling, would be at the ratio level, as well as speed or differences in temperature. So the changes in temperature on the interval level will give us regular intervals, but a 0 temperature difference means there's no difference. In this, ratios can be computed, so we can say that a sapling is twice as tall as a second sapling. The second topic that we're going to look at in this video are types of studies and ways a statistician can gather data. The primary type will be the observational study, where the researcher observes but makes no effort to change the conditions that exist as part of the class. They merely observe what happens, or count things as they happen, or what happened in the past, and use that to try to draw conclusions. An experiment has the researcher deliberately applying a treatment and observing the responses. They need to split the group into a treatment group and a response and a control group. And these two groups should be matched well. Exactly how that's done, we're not going to go into, but you don't want to have one group be entirely male and the other group entirely female, and then test the effect of being told positive things about their self-image, about their appearance for one group, and neutral things about, or negative things about the other, which actually would be two experimental or treatment groups. So that would be an example of a bad experimental design, where mixing males and females of different age groups and different body types into both the treatment group or groups and the control group is a reasonably acceptable experimental design. The independent variable in both experiments and in observational studies is the one that is more likely to be manipulated by the researcher or by nature. So an independent variable could be the application of, or the insertion of so much positive or negative feedback in someone's social media page, especially where the person doesn't know whether they're in the control group or the treatment group. Or the independent variable can be a person's age. That is controllable by nature in a sense, but it is used in comparison with a person's height to figure out whether the person is growing normally or abnormally. The height would be the dependent variable, or a person's self-image would be the dependent variable. There are a number of confounding variables or influences that are not necessarily examined within the study, but affect the study. Confounding variables are almost always present and the efforts can be made to control for them, but it's not always possible to do so, often when they are invisibly confounding variables. Other ways we can approach gathering data is through using a simulation, which is either a mathematical or physical model to reproduce the conditions of a situation or process. So crash test dummies used in car accident modeling is an example of a simulation. Also, if you want to figure out how many heads flipping the coin 1,000,000 times would have, one could do that as a type of study, probably observational because we're not doing anything to manipulate that. But who wants to be flipping a coin 1,000,000 times? You program a computer to look at random numbers, and if the random number is above 0.5, it's heads and below is tails. And the simulation on the computer can allow you to gather that data quickly and easily. A survey is a snapshot type of observational study where the person being given the paper or interviewed will be responding to questions about a particular characteristic or characteristics, which are then examined by the researcher. So that wraps up this first mini-series of lessons. We will then look at ways to display data that is quantitative and qualitative in our next unit.